Hey guys, still here and welcome back to Wargame. In this, what's going to be a shorter video than normal, I wanted to analyze what happened on the left flank of the game that I showed you a while ago called Fast and Light. That was on Highway to Seoul, and I was operating on the far right flank, and at some point I heard Kieta chime in on Discord and say, hey, I lost all my forces. So I was wondering what the hell happened to him, and how he potentially could have prevented that. Now, I'm going to be running it from his perspective, and he's going to be running an Israeli deck. At least that's that much I've figured. I'm not sure if it's specialized, but I don't believe that it is. And I just wanted to see what he could be doing better. Now, as the title already indicates, it is going to be one of the, let's say, Crayon videos. But as you can tell, it's not going to be the full length of the gameplay. Because I just wanted to see how he ended up losing his forces in the first 5 minutes. Because that's pretty much what happened. So, let's see what he deploys. Or actually, I'm going to skip past the deployment phase because there are 10 people trying to cram all of their units in these this little sector, and then most of all into this highway, which of course is going to be a little tight. Now, starting off, we have, by the looks of it, 2 players over here. We have Kieta himself and Styx. That's the people who have marked up. We got Princess Rachel on Airborne. So aircraft potentially are not that big of a risk at the moment. Now, let's see about his forces. I'm seeing Ram Reckies, potentially carrying Maglan. Then he has the Hammer transports, potentially carrying... I don't think it's special forces, considering their lower level of elitism. Lower veterancy level. Then 2 Magar 7 Gemel. Bardelas with ATGM. Machbet. More Bardelas, more ATGMs. 2 more Machbet. And an Achsarit. So he has a bunch of forces over. Oh, and the HVMS, which I haven't mentioned yet. Really nice vehicles. Exceptionally good rate of fire for these 60mm guns. And they're very nice at taking out transports very quickly. It's just one shot, reload in 2 seconds, kill another transport, do it again, and so forth. Now, he's going into what seems to be this area of operations over here. If I'm going to pause it for a second. If I'm looking at this area of operations beforehand, this is what I'm seeing. I'm seeing tree lines over here. This, for me, screams HGM, because an HGM from here is going to have a good line of sight. That's that's almost a straight line right there. The force over here, infantry warfare. So this is where you're going to have, let's say, Red Force starting there, and you're going to push this way, and you start over here, and you're going to try and push that way. All the while taking fire from what could be a tank or 2, firing from that position. Which, then again, if you have an HEGM over here, and that's kind of what I'm banking on, you can still neutralize that tank. So that should be doable. I'm also seeing this building block over here. It is one building, so is this one. This is just one building. It does look like a cluster, but it's one building. Over here, considering his vehicles, I would preferably put my line infantry. Something that can really hold their own and have a high rate of fire on the anti-tank weapons. I know that from here to there, you're just never going to reach it. This is, for most infantry weapons, anti-tank vehicles, or anti-tank weapons, too far. You could argue that you don't need this building at all. You could put recon inside of it and just use it to spot everything. The problem with the recon inside is that, well, you're a fairly easy target because, well, you're in a building, so you don't really have a lot of places to go. And you're an obvious target because it's the only building block in the area. And the Israeli, recon infantry-wise, have the option between the Maglan or the Bedouins. Bedouins, in this case, would be better because Maglans are more expensive and generally harder to replace. So how I would set up my forces if I had Kieta's force composition. I would put my recon over here initially. If I'm going in here solo and this is a big sector, I need to know what's going on. And Maglans are expensive, they're hard to replace. I need to know that they're safe. And they have that 24-50 meter range. So from their position over here, they can reach, I think, something like this. It would be perfect if you had the range tool from Steel Division 2 in this game, but no such thing, unfortunately. So I put my recon over there. Let me remove that and place the R down again. I would potentially have a tank over here. Let's say AA this side, making sure I can eliminate any helicopters which are about to cross that line, which can do rushes. And I would try and put my standard infantry over there, securing this forest initially, until I know what I'm up against. And then potentially put more recon, so let's say more maglan over here. Although this position is fairly close. Because at this range, infantry, let's say that there's red 4 infantry over here. They can, and probably will be shooting the recon over here. So that means that maglans are not ideal. I would try to put my ATGM team over here. That's the single A. The double A is the end here. And from this position, so here's your ATGM, they can cover a lot of ground. Any vehicles which think that they might want to push up to try and capture this building over here, they're going to get shot at once they reach, let's say, just about that position. So they're trying to push this way. Once they get there, they're going to get hit. At least that's the plan. Now, let's see what Kieta is... sorry. It's a habit that has so sunk in, but the guy's called Kieta, not Kieta. You know, like the Chiquita banana. He has a Siphon up, so he has a little bit of advance warning. And he can see Rick coming his way. See, at this point, if I'm not directing my forces, I would already go, uh-oh, I'm going to have a problem. Because I know that I'm alone. And on this game mode, I think we started out with about 1,000 points, give or take a few. But my 1,000 points, which hasn't even all arrived, the rest of the forces are still here. My 1,000 points is potentially going up against 2,000 points because I'm looking at two different players. If they're both securing this position, let's say that one player takes up this line and the other player takes up that line. That is about 2,000 forces or 2,000 points of forces versus your 1,000 over the whole line. So you're going to be overwhelmed. You're going to be outnumbered. Once you see something like that, don't push in. Don't do this. Now he is trying to, I think, panic drop off because he sees all this stuff but doesn't know quite what it is. The Siphon is at a distance where it can now see what these vehicles are, and they're SPW 80s. Look at the level of veterancy. These are elites. These guys are not something you want to encounter up close. He drops the maglans into the building. Maglans carry 4 anti-tank missiles, which they're immediately launching. And they will get some kills, sure enough. But ideally, I would use maglans as assassins. And I would try to engage these spikes, or try to engage higher priced vehicles with them. Now, a couple seconds later, we can see that one player seems to be moving in this direction. And this guy over here, Rick, seems to be trying to get into this position. I'm not sure where Kieta's going. He has this place over here. He's trying to get these vehicles in over here. We know that this thing right here is an XA-185. So that's an autocannon. There's at least one tank coming in, a T-72 and one mod. Those guys are no joke. They might not be the best tanks, but they have a good rate of fire, they have a good amount of frontal armor, a lot of accuracy, and a punchy gun. This is not something that your tanks, your Megar 7s, are ever going to hope to hold against. At this point, I would probably try to get these forces back. Just let them take this forest. These vehicles, well, they might be a distraction, if that, and nothing else. And the maglans, are the maglans getting shot at? Not yet. Get them out. Pull the maglans out. Oh no, don't push in. Don't push in. Why are you pushing in? This is so risky. Because, yeah, here come the T-72S's, T-72 on mod. He's throwing the Megar 7 forward, which is a 95-point tank, 17 frontal armor, 17 AP. Versus a T-72S, that is 18 frontal armor, so you're not going to pen that. And 20 AP at a rate of fire of 8 rounds a minute versus 10 rounds a minute. So yes, you have the firepower, but this thing will do damage to you before you will do damage to it. You will out-trade it in rate of fire, but not in damage. This thing will pen you at maximum range, and even if you're closing to less than maximum range, you're still not that likely to immediately get a good amount of damage in, because it has 1 point more frontal armor than your gun can do at maximum range, with its 17 AP at 2275. Maybe he's trying to wrap up as many points as possible. I don't know, that might be the argumentation here. Maybe he's just trying to get as much of this stuff killed as possible, but I don't see it happening. Now, sure enough, he scored some points, 110. But I would immediately get these guys right here back. Take up position in this tree line. In which case, they will still not really stand up to all of these tanks here, and the one here, and potentially there's something else in here that we haven't even identified yet. But at least your tanks will be safe. And your tanks from their position over here will be, let me just remove that, from the position over here, they will be able to shoot, for example, the LSTR, if the LSTR move from this building to this one. And LSTR are expensive. A push with infantry is going to usually involve vehicles. And unless the enemy smokes up your building over here, you will be able to see them coming, and your tanks can engage those things before they get to this position. The Macbeth, risky, these two. Don't move them there, move them back, here. I would want one AA piece over there. I'm just going to mark them with X's. One there, one here, and one here. This way, I have some AA covering this side. So let's say, no, not that little stealth. It's a bit more. Let's say something like that. And of course, yes, it's a 360, but this is sort of the angle that I'm looking at. You have one over here with a potentially overlapping field of fire. And the third one, let's say it's over there, although this position is fairly risky with units that could come in from over there and just plop an ATGM into you. But from here you have plenty of overlapping field of fire. The only thing you got to keep in mind is that they're radar guided. Either turn them on or off. But whatever you do, don't leave them on over time, because they are likely to receive seed missiles, especially in 10v10s. You can see some flakcoms over there. Oh crap, this is a third player. So at this point, we have Kieta taking on whatever this Russian is. Rick. Jar Jar Binks with his planes. And there was another guy, Corona something. Blows Corona. So at this point you're trying to take on 4 players single, and you're not going to have an easy time doing it. There comes the seed. The seed fortunately does not move in, but your AA units are still active. He's pushing in. This is too risky. Bardelas, ATGMs, 2600 meter range. Excellent units. Here. No, it's not a tank. This should be an ATGM position. You could probably reach to about here. Maybe a little more. It's always a bit hard to tell, so I'm guesstimating my ranges. But at this range, you can still keep those tanks contained, because they will not start steaming down this line, or they're going to get met by an ATGM. So maybe he was too focused on either bringing in additional stuff or getting his forces over here managed. I don't know. I cannot exactly look into his brain and see what he was thinking or doing. And there's also the oh shit factor. This is a very scientific factor that makes your brain go fuck, what's happening? How am I going to counter this? Help. And you just sort of freeze up. And that's costing you units, of course. Now at this point, he's still trying to move forward. But look at the overwhelming amount of firepower. T-72Ss, T-72 M1 mod, XA-180, that's just a machine gun, Bushmasters. It's just way too much. Hanim, decent against vehicles, decent rate of fire, 21 AP is right there in the middle, and 875 is on the higher round of range. But they just will never ever be able to get into range. And something is obviously spotting you here. And once you're encountering infantry as well, you're toast. So fall back to this forest. Because if you are in this forest over here, and an infantry starts to push out, then it's just going to be you versus them. And potentially a Macbeth, if it were still parked over there, can assist. The tanks over here cannot shoot further than this tree line. They cannot see beyond it. Sure enough, maybe on this side over here they could, because there's a lighter amount of trees. But this part, no way. They cannot shoot through there. So try to limit the amount of encounters that you can have at any one given time. Because at the moment you're just making it very risky and losing a lot of forces. Now the HVMS, back. This way please. I'm not sure why my arrow is so small. Whoops, there we go. As you can tell. There we go. I'm still trying to get used to the pen. For those of you who are wondering, this software is called Epic Pen. It's a free little tool that I somehow dug up, and it works very, very nicely for situations like these. Why is your Oshkosh going here? No, 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 no. Don't try to resupply the Maglan. Here's what's going to happen. The Oshkosh is, at this point, relatively safe behind the building. However, the Maglans are actually currently, without ATGMs, safer than if they were carrying ATGMs. Because what's going to happen, if the Oshkosh offloads one ATGM onto the Maglan, everything here immediately lights up. These tanks over here might be out of range, but these things sure as hell are not. And you're only a 5-man squad. So you're going to die very, very quickly. And I think we're about to see that happen. Oshkosh in position. It has everything enabled. There goes another Hammer. Taking a long time to load new ammo. There we go. Loading. Firing the Negev. Machine gun. Immediately the XA-185s open up on the building. A tank opens up. Now you're down to one guy. And you're dead. Okay, fair enough. That was not the fault of the HEGMs. That was the fault of the machine gun. But still, this thing, the Oshkosh, was not exactly making your life any easier. Now, provided that he had not lost all of his forces and just let the Panzerjäger try to push up. If you had a tank still over here, one of the surviving tanks, you could probably take about half of these guys off as they were trying to maneuver from here to there. Because this is where the XA-185 dropped them off. So you could take off a lot of Panzerjäger. You would also be fairly safe from the tanks and potentially other units, but you don't... Well, I don't exactly know what came through this forest aside from these Panzeri. So there could still be other infantry. Now, the game is about 8 minutes old, although actually it's 5 minutes old, or a little over, because this game timer at 55 minutes only starts when everybody's deployed their units. At this point, there's not a whole lot that you can do. And of course, I have perfect information. You should have withdrawn. I have perfect information. I can go to the neutral viewer, but I didn't want to. And I'm also not being burdened by, shit, I just lost all my forces. Which is a frustration that is very recognizable, because it happens to me quite often. That you go, oh crap, there go all my units. Oh. And if it's a tactical, there's not that much you can do. In a game like this, where we still had a decent income, you can come back. So the most important thing to do here is take a deep breath. Reorganize, reorient, and figure out what the next line of defense is going to be. Because you now know that they have Echo. Their next stop is probably not going to be India, because India itself, well, sure, you got that +4. Oh, actually, is that a reinforcement zone, or is that Juliet? Juliet's the reinforcement zone, here. This one is just 4 points. Sure, it helps, but I would not make it a priority. Which means that your units over here... what are these? I can see the Achsarit. Ah, Rovait. They're not going to be too useful here. Because the enemy is not that likely to be pushing in over here. So I would, at this point... Let's say... Actually, let me rephrase that. Let's say that the enemy is trying to now move here. I don't usually see them do it, but let's say that they are. You don't need your infantry all the way back there at the edge of the screen. I would want to have an HGM team, or a Maglan in this case, where he has the Bedouins. And from there, I can tell a lot more about what's going on, and vehicles that want to move up will immediately get shot at by HGMs. So that could give me more information. If I have it, I would probably deploy a couple of fast and light HGM jeeps. They don't have to be the 50-point tow 2s that various nations have. They could just be simple 20-pointers. 4 HGMs on a truck, and, well, players don't like to get hit by HGMs, because you never quite know what sort of missile it is until it's already in flight, in which case you only have seconds to respond. So in this case, I would probably just sit back for a while. Sit back, put some HGM's vehicles over here, maybe some AA here. In this case, probably more an a long-range AA battery. So an anti-plane, so I can cover, let's say, this area instead of just here if I were to go for radar-guided anti-air guns. And just see what the enemy does. Sure, they have all of these forces over here in India, or what's it called, Echo? Echo. They have all their forces there, but now what? What are you going to do with all those forces? Are you going to push somewhere, or are you just going to keep them sitting in the back somewhere? Anyway, if this happens, don't worry about it. It happens to everybody, or at least most of the players I know. It happens. It sucks. Take a couple of deep breaths and keep playing. And just try to think, okay, what could my next line of defense be? Don't immediately try to attack, because you're still trying to attack into a majority of forces, especially in this situation. So don't go there. Don't fight the enemy on their terms. Fight the enemy on your terms. That means let them come to you until you're strong enough or they're weak enough for you to actually push in. Anyway, that's just what I wanted to highlight with this quick video. I'm experimenting with the video length a little bit. I mean, I just did a 60-minute video this weekend. So this one's going to be a bit shorter, just to highlight some elements that I thought Kieta could have done differently. Let me know what your thoughts are down below in the comments, and I look forward to seeing what you guys have as suggestions for him. Thank you for watching, hope you enjoyed, and good luck with the rest of your Monday.